Hey, good morning, everybody. Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. It is a foul day here. Blustery, cold, wet, damp, dank, dark, stormy morning up here in the hill country. A little bit late today. We're usually around 8:45, so running just a tad behind, but hopefully I'll be able to provide you with, at the very least, 45 minutes worth of quality content, which is what I strive to do here every day on 15 Minutes of Flame. And for those of you who have subscribed to the show, thank you very much. I truly appreciate your subscription and your time and attention and all the things that go along with it. And for those of you who have not subscribed, please feel free to do so. I've always made my content available, gate-free. I'm doing this for 10 years, and I'll continue to make it available to everybody. It's kind of an honor system, not quite a tip jar, because you do get some goodies that go along with subscribing here to 15 Minutes of Flame, and of course, the Friday Farcast, and of course, Sunday Night Astro Live. And just a reminder, tomorrow, I've confirmed I'll be joined by Regina Meredith tomorrow, 12 noon Central Standard Time, and going to find out just what the hell happened with Regina and what caused her to get booted off of Twitter and Facebook. I'm not sure if she's been reinstated, because sometimes that does happen. We'll find out. I'll find out tomorrow, and we'll catch up with Regina and get her take on sort of the state of things and what's happening politically. And speaking of political, I'm going to talk about what happened last night with the Democratic debates. But before I do, let me continue to just kind of check in here with people in Chatlandia. What do we got? We got Colleen. Good morning, Colleen. And there's Uncle Glenn. Donna, what's happening? Hi, Donna. Tamara. Lisa Rodriguez. Hey, Matt Z. Tina Sherman. Hi, Tina. Good to see you. There's my man, Steve Mercer. What's going on, Steve? There's Joni. Christine. Hi, Christine. Mr. Maury. I plan on subscribing today. All right. Music to my ears, Maury. That's great. Thank you for that. Let's see. There's Miranda. Hi, Miranda. Oh, speaking of high, guess who's here? He's up on his high horse. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah, that guy. You know what we haven't done in a while? We haven't played Jasper's song in a while. I think we need to play Jasper's song. Let me see if I can find it. Should be on the desktop. Give me 1 second. Yeah, all right. Let's have a little earworm, shall we? It's probably taking you at least 2 to 3 weeks to get it out of your head the last time you heard it. And I'm just going to drop it back in to your ear one more time. Let's bring it up here. Oh, hey, hey. Let's do a little screen shareage. And here we go.
Jasper, the astrological cat. Look up your chart, show you right where you're at. It's Jasper, the astrological cat.
Jasper actually meowed after that. Good job, buddy. You're picking this media thing up. Shall we get a close up on our friend? You know, I got a camera here that I can do things with, like this. There he is. There he is in all of his handsome glory. Jasper the man. Yeah, there we go. All right. For all of you who have a little motion sickness or who have motion sickness, I apologize for that. But, yeah. Playing with the studio, getting creative. All right, let's see who we have in the chat, where it's at. Hey, Jennifer, what's going on? I watched that Lost Wages event last night. It was a hoot. Let's see, there's Judy. Hi, Judy. Good to see you. Good morning. You know, I just found out that there is a place called Jasper, Texas. I just found that out last night. Apparently, there's a documentary about Jasper, Texas, where there was a robbery, Brinks truck kind of robbery. And of course, the guys who robbed the truck were not the guy that they arrested. They arrested some poor innocent black dude. And there was, became a very interesting case here in Texas, in Jasper, Texas. So I wonder if they could have Jasper Day in Jasper, Texas. What do you think, Jasper? Think it's possible? Anyway, Jasper, Texas. Maybe I'll do a remote one day from Jasper, Texas. If they have Wi-Fi. I'm sure they have Wi-Fi. All right, shall we talk about what happened last night at the Democratic debates? So Michael Bloomberg has been spending a ton of money, shitloads of money, to get on TV and to get on stage, which I think was a big mistake for Michael Bloomberg. It was a very big mistake. Like, this is a guy, theoretically, who has made billions of dollars, raised himself up from the streets, Mr. Bootstrap, and mayor of New York City. Now, listen, you can't be mayor of New York City unless you kind of know what you're doing. And I don't mean it means being able to run a city, because clearly we have mayors all over the United States of America who are doing an incredible job of running the cities right into the ground. I'm talking about being savvy, having political connections, being involved in power dynamics, games, all the things that contribute to the rise of the sociopath in our society to be able to govern us, right? You would think that Bloomberg, after all these years, dealing at a very high level with his businesses in the city of New York, levels of corruption, dealing with power, people that have power, want the power, want to seduce you for the power, all those things. You would think that that guy and the people that are advising him would have had a much better sense as to what to do with his candidacy. His TV ads were starting to kick ass. Like, he had this one TV ad where he used Obama. It was like Obama was endorsing Michael Bloomberg. If you didn't understand how they edited that ad, you would have said, look, Obama's endorsing Bloomberg. There was another ad where Joe Biden just went out of his way to talk about how great Mike Bloomberg was. And they turned that into an endorsement. I mean, so this guy they were very clever at that level. And the worst advice that he could have taken, even if it was his own advice, was to be in that debate. Because if he had simply run his campaign through his massive advertisement push, he would have had an edge and a leg up on the other candidates. He would have separated himself out. And then at a certain point in time, when the field had been winnowed down, and I mean really winnowed down, then he could have gone in and then strategically taken on whoever was left, probably Sanders. And he and Sanders would have had a battle royal. But instead, what he did is he decided to buy his way. I think he paid about $1 million to the DNC to get into that debate. Says a lot about our politics, doesn't it? It's right on the surface, too. So he gets in there, and what did they all do? They all decided, fuck, man, we're going to gang up on this guy. I mean, this was like The Godfather. It was like The Godfather, and they all had Tommy guns underneath their podiums. And they were just ready. And they were just ready for the one moment. And that one moment was Elizabeth Warren, when she blurted out and confronted him on these NDAs that women at his company had to sign. Now, the underlying message here is that they were sexually harassed. And Bloomberg and his people should have known that this was going to come up as a topic of conversation. they needed to be that smart. And the Democrats, and I say the Democrats, and I'm talking about as a whole, had done their opposition research on Bloomberg, and they knew this. They knew this, and they got together, their strategists got together as a party. Remember, Bloomberg has been a Republican, he's been an independent, he's been a Democrat. He doesn't really care about what his party affiliation is, just like Trump. Trump at one time was a Democrat, because if you were living in New York City, it made sense to be a Democrat, because that's the way New York has evolved. You know, the urban ideology has trended towards the Democrats, the progressives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he doesn't really care. And these people have been embedded, dyed in the wool, embedded in the Democratic Party for years. So they have party alliance. And they got together. It was like the meeting of the mob bosses, the capos, right? And they got together and they said, well, what are we going to do about Bloomberg? Well, we're going to get him tonight. We're going to get him. We're going to make sure that he doesn't get anywhere near our convention. And they designated Elizabeth Warren to be the hitman. They said, you're going to do the job. You're going to put that gun right to his head. And there's going to be a moment where you're just going to pull the trigger and you're going to blow his fucking brains out. And that's what happened last night. It was one of the worst showings in a debate by any candidate I've seen. It made the Tulsi Gabbard, Kamala Harris drive-by look like a schoolyard skirmish. Like, she took him out. Now, he might be able to stick around, because he has so much money, and he might have to rally very quickly and bring somebody off the sidelines. Like, would Michael Bloomberg bring Hillary Clinton into the race as a vice presidential candidate to save his candidacy? Will he stick around that long? Will he continue to spend money? He's going to have to go back. Well, this is an interesting question, because he's going to have to deal with this NDA stuff. And whether he's going to have to deal with it in a press conference or whether he's going to have to deal with it with Elizabeth Warren. The whole idea was, will you free the women that signed NDAs? Will you turn them loose so they can say and tell everything about how bad it was at Bloomberg Inc.? Now, I can guarantee it wasn't every single female at Bloomberg Inc. There was a few. And I'm no apologist for Michael Bloomberg. But, you know, the idea here would be that Michael Bloomberg is a complete misogynist, hates women, there was abuse, and he covered up the abuse. That's the underlying message. You're Michael Bloomberg, you're going to have to address that at some point. Because in our political climate, in this environment, that's about as bad as stage 4 cancer. If you have that kind of what are you doing, Jesper? If you have that kind of stigma that you're dealing with, right? It's not good. So he's going to have to deal with it sooner or later. And remember, he's an Aquarian, and they tend to be very detached. Like, look at his statements when he was talking about crime, or he was talking about the farmers. By the way, I've got some interesting. Trump's a freaking genius. I don't always agree with Trump and what he does, but he's a freaking genius. And I'm going to show you something that you may not be aware of that he did in the wake of Bloomberg's sort of diminution of the American farmers. Very interesting. Not only that, but a complete broadside against the state of California. So Bloomberg is going to, if he's going to stay in the race, he's going to have to figure this out. Now, he is not a seasoned debater. That's clear. And those people have been basically piling on each other for what, the last 6 months? They've been piling on and slopping it out and slogging it out. So they're battle tested. You know, they're battle tested. You're in that environment long enough, you figure it out. You know, the timing, the cadence, the subtle tells, all that stuff, right? So they were ready. They had been in training. They've been in the dojo, and they got together and they said, we're going to cap him. And that's exactly what happened last night. He may not recover from this because Twitter was just absolutely scorching Mike Bloomberg. I mean, and again, Twitter is kind of this weird alternate universe. And it's like Twitter is like the Vox Populi, but it's like the Vox Populi on PCP. It's the voice of the people on PCP. It's out of control in a lot of ways. I used to live in San Jose, California. PCP was a very big drug in California when I was growing up in high school. Angel dust. It was the drug of choice for the lowrider community. They were very into angel dust, also known as sherm, right? Anyway, that's what Twitter is. And Michael Bloomberg was just excoriated, absolutely excoriated and crucified. I'm not sure how he's going to come back. Now, if Elizabeth Warren had done that to Trump, Trump would have definitely pivoted, turned, and went right back at her and put her back on her heels. And remember now, Trump has been, Trump is being vulcanized over the last 3 years. You name me any other person in history, in this country, and maybe historically, with the exception of what, Louis XVI, right, who I've actually compared Trump to. You name me anybody that's taken as much thermonuclear heat as Donald John Trump and still be able to function and still be able to move ahead and do his thing and get stronger results. You're not going to find many other people. You're just not. So this is a guy that's been vulcanized. Jasper's tail is out of control today. Control your tail, Jasper. And he's going to go to the debates. And when the smoke clears and we actually move towards an election and we move into a debate cycle, and by the way, the big nexus point for Trump is going to be his tax returns, because the Supreme Court will visit his tax return situation in June, and that's going to be right around the time of the Venus retrograde. It's going to be very interesting, and Venus will be in Gemini. Of course, Trump is a Gemini. So mark that kind of period on your calendar, because that's going to be a very important kind of moment for Trump and his campaign. But I'm telling you right now, he would have absolutely turned the tables on Elizabeth Warren. And this is a guy, just think of this now. This is a guy that had the Billy Bush tape and got through that and still got elected. And Michael Bloomberg couldn't handle it. He's done. And he's an Aquarian, and they're very, very detached. So he should have stayed away. I mean, that would have been the Aquarian strategy. Just stay away. Separate yourself from this group of, I'm going to use the L word, losers. Separate yourself from them. Although apparently Bernie now is starting to take victory laps. He's feeling the burn because apparently he won last night. He won the debate. He won New Hampshire, and he's headed into the next primary with a lot of momentum. However, Elizabeth Warren now has the spark of life. But if I were Bloomberg, I'd figure out very quickly if he's going to stay in the race that he's going to have Hillary Clinton on his ticket. Now, there are people that think that Hillary's going to run by herself. I don't know about that. And if I was a Democrat, I'd probably go burn down Democratic National Committee headquarters if that was the case. But her and Bloomberg could actually be quite formidable, and he might actually need her on the ticket so that he can show that, he has some respect for women, right? I think that might be some minor chord, but he might have to play that. Does he have to deal with it? Does he have to deal with it or drop out? That's it. But he was just so unprepared for that moment. And it's shocking. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he is an Aquarian and that they have a very kind of detached perspective. It's also very Mercury retrogradism because they were going back, right? They were going back to look at what happened with him, what happened with these NDAs, and he stuttered, he stammered. It was really bad. There's no way you can spin it that was. I mean, in the way that, and then right after that happened, like Joe Biden's in his shit. He's jumping on, which is typical Joe Biden. Typical Joe Biden. He's going to pile on. Joe Biden was one of these. He's one of these guys that, if there's a fight and the fight breaks out, he doesn't start the fight. He doesn't defend the fight. He's the guy that jumps in and gets a few shots in. That's Joe Biden. That's who he is. He'll just jump in and get a few rabbit punches in and come out acting and looking like he was the one that was victorious. Interesting, very, very interesting times. Coronavirus, of course, still circulating through the media. Number of cases reported here in the United States. No deaths. No deaths in the U.S. No deaths reported. China, on the other hand, seems to become a 24/7 crematorium, if we can believe some of the numbers and some of the stories that have come out. They're quoting about 50,000 dead. That's what I've heard. That might even be conservative at this point. The people that were on the cruise ships now are being released. So the cruise ship quarantine is coming to an end. And the Brits who were on there and who were broadcasting from their room were being sent to a hostel, not a hospital, but a hostel to recover. That's kind of odd. But maybe all the people who were on the ship are being sent to the hostel. I don't know. Maybe they don't want to jeopardize the medical staff at the hospital itself. But the bottom line here is that we're still dealing and will be dealing with supply chain issues. I went to buy some truck parts 2 days ago because I've been restoring this old 1977 Ford F-100, and I needed to get some door panels. And I went to one of the suppliers, one of the people that has these aftermarket, and they didn't have them; they were out. And I was able to find them from some other source. But I think we're gonna see more of that, and that means that you should probably get some things that you may need and just have around the house, whatever they are. And you know what those items are. You may want to just have a few extra laying around. I'm just saying. And that includes some cash. You should always have a little bit of cash on the side as well, just so you can access it whenever you need to. This leads me to my next story, which is a bit anecdotal. One of my great outlets for entertainment in this fast-paced and bustling town is shopping at H-E-B. H-E-B, for those of you who are not a citizen of this lovely state, stands for Harry E. Butt. And it's the Butt family who started the largest grocery chain in the state of Texas and also in Mexico. There's H-E-Bs all over Mexico now. So it's a transnational company. And I really like H-E-B, I have to say. And I'm one of these people, I don't like to do curbside. And I know a lot of people, it's very convenient. I don't like to do curbside. I don't like to have groceries delivered to my door. I like to actually go to the store. I like to look at things. You know, I like to discover things. I like to look at people. It's like, for me, it is a petri dish of the human experience. And in a lot of ways, it kind of is now, right? So I was at H-E-B 2 days ago, and I'm in the express line, which is 15 items or less. Now, I'm not an express line Nazi, but there's a limit, right? There's a limit. And we all kind of know what that limit is. If it's 15, you got 19, you're kind of on the edge. It's like, it's like you got a little cushion there, a little margin. Because I've been in the express lane and I've had maybe 18, 19. items because what they've done is they've automated the checkout process. They have less people in the 15 items or less line. And in the other lines, you're dealing with massive baskets of stuff, right? So I go to the 15 items or less line, and I got 5 items. 5 items. And the guy in front of me, I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of shit. That's a lot. I mean, you're over the margin, buddy. It was really interesting from what happened, at least for me, from that moment forward. Because I'm thinking now, what do I want to say to this guy? And do I want to say anything to this guy? So as soon as I put my little 5 items up there, he was very quick to put up the barrier, the product containment barrier, the little bar. Oh, he's going to help me. Why is he doing that? Because he feels guilty. So let me help. So now I'm dealing with that. Now I'm kind of sizing him up on a number of different levels. Physically, psychically, energetically. And he was obviously he was a laborer. He was wearing a fluorescent green vest, right? That you wear when you're out working on shit, like for the telephone company or cable company or electrical, whatever, right? Sort of a burly guy. And he's wearing this vest. He's got a baseball cap. So I'm like, what can I say to this guy? And do I even need to say anything to this guy? So I'm watching the whole thing go down. And as soon as it's his turn, he just shoots to the other end. Like, it's really interesting how we read each other on energetic levels. And we don't even have to say things sometimes. Like, that guy was feeling me. And he went all the way to the other end and started bagging his shit up really quickly because he knew that he was guilty, that he had gone way over the limit, way over. So he's, furiously kind of bagging his stuff up. And again, I was counting his items, and this guy had about 35 items. Okay. Now I know I'm maybe being a line Nazi, but it's true. And he had 25, which is 7 over. I mean, it's getting there. But then he had 5 packets, two bundles of, and they weren't bundled, they were individual, of Kool-Aid. Okay. I don't know who the fuck buys Kool-Aid anymore. Anyway, he's using Kool-Aid. It's got 10, and each one of those Kool-Aids, beep, beep, beep. So 25 went to 35, with those little packets, right? But he's just at the end of the line, bagging. So we get the hell out of there because he's guilty. And then all of a sudden I look at the woman behind me, and she's rolling her eyes. She's like, yeah. It was a very interesting moment, just at a psychic level where nothing had to be said. I didn't have to say anything to that guy. That was really interesting. I didn't have to say a thing. He knew. And he didn't want any part of being confronted with it, which is good because I got in trouble one time confronting some people at HEB. It was not good. But here was my takeaway on the whole thing. If the shit hit the fan, that is not a guy you'd want to be around. If we got into a shit hit the fan scenario, that's a guy that will hoard. That's a guy that will take your stuff, right? That's the psychology around that person. It's oh, interesting. This is you'd want to stay away from that dude. He'd be part of a hunting party. You know what I mean? All right, let me check in with you guys in the chat room. Let's see, we have broke the express lane code. Divider. The human contain, it's the product containment barrier. You know those big walls, those big sound walls that are on the side of the freeway? Do you know what they're called? They're called human containment barriers. They're not called sound barriers, human containment barriers. Let's see, yes, it is all a house of cards and everyone must play the game or get left behind. What is it about rolling the eyes that is so effective? This is condescending. You know, it's a condescending, like not towards me. You know, and the woman behind me had a really interesting, like she had a lot of shit in her basket too. Like, lady, manage your own basket. You got plenty of stuff in your basket. You don't want me counting your items, so don't pile on with me. And she was kind of making, and it was so, and I couldn't, like, here was another part of me. It was like, I couldn't wait to talk to the cashier because I would have asked her, I said, so what is your policy around having more items than you really need to? Like, do you ever talk to somebody and say, you know, the sign, next time, maybe you want to use another line. But that never happens, by the way. And I'm not asking them to do that because most people are not confrontational. Okay. But she didn't do that. But I was going to ask her. Like, you know, what's your policy here? Do you ever talk to people about that? But there was a shift change. And so he leaves, she leaves, and I've got this other gal who's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Did you find everything you need today? How are you? I said, I'm just great. I had the most profound revelation today. Really? What's that? Well, I had this revelation that I never have to feel guilty for having more than 15 items in a line from here on out. She didn't know what to, and I actually said that. She didn't know what to do. But then the woman behind me says, oh, and you know, the eye roller. Oh, I know. It's like, oh, it's so terrible. And sometimes, you know, you'll have a lot of items and they'll move you from one line and they'll stick you over here. And it's like, is that why you have so many items too? It was such a weird moment, right? It was so bizarre, but it was good. I wasn't confrontational, but not that way. Because the last time I was confrontational, they almost called the cops on me at HEB. I swear to God. I learned my lesson. I also learned my lesson not to go to HEB after I've worked out when my blood pressure and heart rate is a little high. All right, let's see what we got in the chat room. I would also say invest in body armor and a ballistic helmet. Okay, invest in body armor and a ballistic helmet. What about small tanks? I think maybe a small tank. Maybe people could chip in their neighborhood. You know, maybe do like a GoFundMe for the neighborhood tank. That would be a really interesting item to own, the neighborhood tank. I mean, if you all chipped in your neighborhood and you all chipped in, I don't know, $2,000 and you have maybe 20 people, you know, you might be able to get a small used tank somewhere. I mean, they have an aftermarket for all these old tanks and these used tanks. I mean, I really think that every neighborhood should have their own tank. That would be a great equalizer. So add that to your list, not just the bulletproof helmets and the Kevlar vests, but the neighborhood tank. GoFundMe. What else do we have here? The person Cliff High interviewed has some good ideas about making masks with antiviral properties and zinc and something else. Cliff High. I'm really enjoying the suppressed 300 blackout, whatever that means. I still have the mask I bought during the bird flu shenanigans. I know, don't judge. Hey, look, nobody's judging you. You're on your own. You're on your own, basically. I don't begrudge or judge anybody for the precautions they take, whether they seem paranoid at the moment. You're on your own. I mean, can you really trust the people who are making these policies, who are enabling, aiding, and abetting people like Charles Lieber, who helped create whatever this shit is in the lab in China where it was essentially and eventually unleashed. Can we trust these people? No. I have no judgment. Do whatever it takes. If you run the risk of being paranoid or fringy, I don't care. I mean, obviously there's limits on some level. If you walk around with a bulletproof helmet and a Kevlar vest every day doing your everyday duties, that might be a bridge too far, a tad too extreme. But we're here. We got to take care of ourselves. So within reason, whatever it takes. I mean, there's no judgment there. You're having a giraffe right now. Let's see. I need to get a 50 BMG. I think you can meet 3/7's Divine Michael somewhere close to the border. I think he's rallying the militia right now. So you may want to PM him and text him. And I think he's getting ready to lead the counter assault. He's right there in our chat. He's revved up and ready to go. All right, I want to talk about what Trump did, which I think is quite interesting. And this is to me, this is Trump genius at work. And again, I don't agree with everything Trump does. I don't agree with everything Trump says. He's starting to run Barr off the reservation, and I don't have any problem with that. I think Barr came in to do two things for Trump. One, he came in to handle the Russiagate and the Mueller stuff. He came in to handle that. Barr is a very seasoned insider, and he came in to handle that. And he came in to handle the Epstein thing. Like the Epstein extraction wouldn't happen without Bill Barr. Remember, Bill Barr's father hired Epstein. So there's a connection there between the family. And he came in and he was going to be the guy that could pull the levers and push the buttons and get Epstein off the streets and get Epstein into that jail in New York, and then essentially extract him, get him out of there, because Epstein was too hot for any number of people. That's one of the reasons why Bill Barr is there. He's done now. He's done. He's finished his duty, right? It's done. Trump doesn't really need him anymore. And I do believe that Trump, and this is where I get like, really? Look, I think he had to take Barr on. That's my sense. He had to bring him in. He had to take him on a number of different levels. Because Jeff Sessions would never have done that. Jeff Sessions didn't have the inside power or clout. He was feeble anyway. It's like, was the guy even there? Did he even do his job? Trust Sessions. Where is he now? He's in the witness protection program. So now Trump is getting ready to run Barr out, because you can see he's going after him on Twitter, and Barr doesn't like it. He may threaten to quit, and Trump would be just okay with that. Like he's targeted Bill Barr. I don't think he wants him around anymore. It's like he's done. He's done. And the way the game works is that, of course, Trump knows who Barr is. Of course, he knows what his background is. Of course, he knows why he was there. He doesn't have any use for him anymore. And if Barr is dragging his heels on the DOJ stuff and not bringing these people like Charles McCabe, because he runs the DOJ, he's the guy. The DOJ has to answer to Bill Barr. And Charles McCabe is walking. He's walking. You think Trump's happy about that? No, he's not happy about that. These people, and say what you will about the inside game and everybody being dirty and everybody having shit on everybody else, because they do. But you can say all you want about that. But Trump is a Leo rising, and he's got Mars and Leo on his ascendant. And that guy he's got a ton of pride, false and otherwise. So he doesn't like being made light of or being fucked over. None of it. Now he's coming back, and he's like, okay, I'm ready to move on from Barr. He's attacking him. And Barr is threatening to remove himself. And I think Trump wants him to do that, actually. And it's not like Barr is going to go run and, tell a dirty story to the New York Times, because there's too much dirt on him and there's too much dirt on this family. They'll have dirt on each other. So it's interesting. Now, Trump is doing some things that are, like, he just pardoned Rod Blagojevich. This is a guy that was essentially put into prison during the Obama administration. That's a signal to Obama, by the way. The pardon of Blagojevich is a signal to Obama. We're letting him out, and we want to know what he knows. And Blagojevich is going to be eternally grateful to Trump, and he's got information, and he'll spill beans. He also pardoned Bernard Kerik, that's weird. If you don't know who Bernard Kerik is the top cop. If I was Bernard Kerik, I'd be a little concerned. Bernard Kerik was the top cop in New York during 9/11. He was Rudy Giuliani's right-hand man. And Bernard Kerik knows where all the bodies are buried with 9/11, and Trump just pardoned him. So Trump's on this roll now. And, who else did he pardon? He pardoned Eddie DeBartolo. Eddie DeBartolo Jr. was the owner of the 49ers. And he got hung up in this entrapment down in Louisiana with Edwin Edwards, who was the corrupt governor of Louisiana. And Eddie wanted a casino down in Louisiana. And Edwin Edwards was wearing a wire, okay? A governor wearing a wire so that they could entrap Eddie DeBartolo, because Eddie wanted to pay him money to get a casino. And they got it on tape. And the FBI nailed Eddie DeBartolo, and he had to give up his ownership in the San Francisco 49ers. And what he did is he swapped the 49ers franchise for his sister and brother-in-law's business, which was essentially building malls. And I think that the sister and the scheming brother-in-law got the better end of the deal. But he pardoned Eddie DeBartolo. Trump is in a very pardonable mood at this point. Who else is he going to pardon? We pardon Julian Assange. I guarantee you he'll pardon Roger Stone, and he won't even think twice about it. That's a given. So the thing that I found really interesting, this is what Trump did, and this was kind of a broadside against Michael Bloomberg and Gavin Newsom. This is how, so let me set the stage for you. The state of California for years has been diverting water from the farmers in the Central Valley so they could theoretically continue to stock the ocean, because the water goes into the freaking ocean, for rainbow trout or, steelhead salmon or some bullshit excuse, right? They've been diverting water for years. If you drive down through the Central Valley in California on I-5, you'll see all these signs that farmers have put out about how the state of California has contributed to a massive water crisis in that state because they divert all the water. They want the farmers to be beholden to the states. So guess what Trump did? The clever guy. Trump signs order diverting water to California farmers against state wishes. So what did this do? Well, first of all, this guy is one crafty son of a bitch. First of all, this is a shot at Mike Bloomberg. Bloomberg and Trump he was addressing farmers right on the heels of Bloomberg saying, oh, they should just go learn code. This is a shot against Bloomberg right here. It's a shot against Gavin Newsom because he knows that he doesn't have to tangle with Gavin Newsom. President Trump on Wednesday signed an order in California to re-engineer the state's water plans. Good for him. Totally good for him. Completed a campaign promise to funnel water from the north to a thirsty agriculture industry and growing population further south. I'm not a big guy for big agri and big farming and pesticides and all that shit. I'm just not. But these farmers have been getting a raw deal. And the state of California is a bully. It's a bully. The state of California, Gavin Newsom, Jerry Brown, the Democratic progressive government in California are bullies. They bullied the independent worker, the gig worker. They bullied them. They bullied them right into not being able to work and have a live. They're bullies. They bully people into making sure their kids are vaccinated, and they have to have vaccinations. It's a state that specializes in bullying. And Trump said, enough. The ceremonial order comes after the Department of the Interior last year reversed its opinion on scientific findings that for a decade extended endangered species protections of various types of fish, a review that had been spurred by the order from Trump. Trump said the changes to the outdated scientific research and biological opinions would now help direct as much water as possible, which will be a magnificent amount, a massive amount of water for the use of California farmers and ranchers. Let me tell you, China grows a lot of food, and we get a lot of Chinese produce. And if we're going to have a downturn in the supply chain, well, and again, we're talking about feeding millions of people. I'm really about grow your own food as much as you can. Have your community gardens, grow food, grow food, grow food. And that's a future step into a truly Aquarian age. But I think this is great because it undermines Gavin Newsom in the state of California. A major obstacle to providing water for the region's farmers has now been totally eliminated by the federal government. Trump said Wednesday in Bakersfield, flanked by House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Rep. Devin Nunes, as well as Interior Secretary David Bernhardt, who helped shepherd the changes in the state's water policy. Trump's order comes as the state has taken several steps to deal with water scarcity that has lasted for decades. It would be different if you had a drought, Trump claimed, despite concerns the state may be headed into another drought. You don't have a drought. You have tremendous amounts of water. That's true. That's absolutely true. The state is expected to fight the order. California won't allow the Trump administration to destroy and deplete our natural resources. California Attorney General Javier Becerra said in a statement after the speech, we're prepared to challenge the Trump administration's harmful attack on our state's critical ecosystems and environment. They've been starving out the farmers for years with their water. And the farmers have had to pay exorbitant amounts of money and license fees and all this other stuff just to grow their crops. Critics fear the new plan would draw large quantities of water to be diverted from San Francisco Bay Delta to the Central Valley in order to irrigate farmland, would ultimately harm Chinook salmon and Delta smelt, a finger-sized fish that for 3 decades has stood in the way of the diversion. Trump in October 2018 had ordered the Interior to reconsider the scientific evidence to help bar redistribution of the state's water. In October of last year, Interior released a new biological opinion limiting long-time protections for the fish. Well, he may also want to help the poor bastards who are fishing off the coast of Vermont and New Hampshire, who've been hamstrung by, again, government regulations that are theoretically environmental and help with the replenishing of the fish stocks. And apparently the fish stocks are at an all-time high now. There's plenty of fish in the ocean. Really what they do and have done is to limit their catches so the globalist markets can bring in farmed fish from places like Canada or Vietnam or wherever they're bringing the farmed in fish from. So maybe he can help those guys out next. And you know what? Good on Trump, because California and the government of California have been nothing but bullies for decades. Jerry Brown is one of the worst. Terrible. Absolute terrible abuse of power. He's a Jesuit. Trump's a Jesuit too, by the way. Don't forget that. So we have fighting Jesuits. Trump was educated at Penn, Ford School of Business, a Jesuit school. What a weird, tangled, mixed up world we live in, right? Shifting alliances, changing teams. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens to Barr. He may not make it through the election cycle. He was pissing and moaning about Trump and his tweets. Trump is smart. Trump is smart. Barr, the one thing you can tell that Barr doesn't like, he doesn't like to be embarrassed. He doesn't like to be embarrassed. So Trump is either going to force him out or he's going to force him to do things that the Department of Justice should theoretically be doing in terms of these clowns that decided that they were going to run a scam on Trump and entrap him and get him out of office, right? That's what happened. And it happened under the Obama administration. Obama was one of the engineers behind this thing. It's the way it is. It's how it went down. All right. Let me check in with you guys, see where you're at. In California, they want tunnels to divert water to SoCal, but they're worried about the environment. Maybe we could put that on this Twitter feed. What else do we have here? Phoebe says, at Miranda, Northwest Wisconsin, near MN and shores of Lake Superior, the growing season is short. Greenhouses are a blessing. What else do we have? He's ballsy. I like that, Diana. Sevens, as sad as it is, Trump will be better on guns than any of them. That's true. Don't get me started on the Delta smelt nonsense. Yeah, Michael, you're right in there. Michael's in the pocket. Chris, can he stop the chemtrails and send them some clean rain? That's above his pay grade. The chemtrail thing is above Trump's pay grade. A lot of people think that it was he was going to end the chemtrailing. That's not going to happen. I don't think any president can end chemtrailing. It's above their pay grade. You're dealing with a whole different level of planetary control and management. Whole different level. The only way that I think that could happen is if the military was involved. And from what I've seen from the military and what I've been researching and discovering about the military, there's just no chance. There's absolutely no chance. There's a really interesting article that I ran across about how, in as much as the colleges and the universities in this country have become indoctrination centers, and that's what they become. They become indoctrination centers. These were the centers that Bill Ayers envisioned. The military version of that, West Point, Annapolis, Colorado Springs, they become the same thing. They have become the exact same thing, especially because in those institutions, that's where the officers are created. So a certain mindset is baked in to, it was a really interesting article. Maybe I'll try to scour it and bring it up on next week. But one of the points that the article made is that because we have such a kind of slavish obeisance and, the military, the army, thank you for serving. Thank you for serving. Like that they're untouchable. They're untouchable. You can't look at what they're doing. You can't look at the quality of the officers or the ideology that's actually being transferred in those institutions. Because we put the military on such a high pedestal in this country that it's unquestionable. You can't question that. It's inviolate. But this article really drilled down and showed that that's just an utter fallacy. So if that's the case, and they're actually creating a group of officers, which is what they're doing, who have kind of an elitist mindset, that they're not going to be of any help either. So they're not going to go and say, look it, man, we've really got to take this chemtrail thing into consideration. We got to put an end to it, which means that we're going to send memos to Evergreen Air or whoever's flying, the contaminants around the planet, that if you have one of your planes in the air, we're going to fucking shoot it down. That probably stop it pretty quickly. But that's not happening. It's because at a high level, there's a ton of corruption. Everybody's on the take. They all want a nice little warm a 3-2 condo in the Dumbs, so that when they have continuity of government, they get to pop up, say, hey, we're here. Let's party. All those people around here, isn't it? Oh, yeah, wasn't it great? So you made the right choice. You complied and you trusted the plan. And now this is your reward. Look, a lot less people. Go drive on that freeway. A lot less cars there now, isn't there? Oh, when you go to the 15 items or less line, you're going to have 15 items or less. Isn't this great? Thank you for serving. That's how it works. That's how these people, the order takers. Why do you think they're order takers? They're order takers because they're promised a seat at the table. And sometimes the seat at the table is, hey, guess what? You're going to have a job and you're going to make money and you're going to be able to put food on the table for your family. And you might even be able to take your wife on a vacation at least once a year. And the other poor bastards, forget about them. That's their problem. That's not your problem. Okay, I'll sign up for that. Sounds good to me. Right? And then there's the higher seats at the table. Oh, well, we got a nice little 3-2 down there, about half a mile down. You're going to love it. You're absolutely going to love it. Here's some pictures of your place. Doesn't that sound great? Oh, yeah, great. That's how the order takers, that's why they take the orders. Some eat at the kiddie table and some eat at the big banquet table. All right. And that's why the military, for all intents and purposes, has maybe they've intervened. I don't know. Maybe behind the scenes they're doing all kinds of stuff. But they still haven't stopped chemtrailing. And I think that's above Trump's pay grade. I think it's above any president's pay grade. Let's see what we have here. If order followers wake up, they are toast. Well, I agree with that. But in order for order followers to wake up, that they'll have to make sacrifices. And I don't know what that level of sacrifice would be. Maybe that their close friends and close family would be left out in the cold. Because at the end of the day, people are just mostly, I think we have enlightened self-interests. And I think when we hit those foundational pieces of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I think that we can be a lot more generous and a lot more compassionate and a lot more empathetic when we have our foundational needs met. But a lot of people don't have their foundational needs met and they're cratered. They're absolutely cratered. So then what they do is they try to backfill that stuff. And but I think they could resist. I think they could change, but it would take a real massive change in consciousness and being able to understand kind of what's going to happen to the people that they love. And if that's the case, then they may be able to turn a corner, but I don't think that's the case for now. And I think we're working or having two parallel realities, because when I played that video, by the way, of the kids on the campus with Caitlin Bennett, like they're in a different reality. They're just in a different reality. And that reality is becoming more saturated with programming and mind control. And so there's one reality going on, and there's another reality where people are waking up. It's very interesting. And again, that gets into that kind of Gemini parallel process that I was talking about yesterday. There's something else that I wanted to, oh, yeah. Here we go. This is another interesting thing. This is kind of a follow-up to yesterday's piece on the teacher in Indiana that got fired. So this is recent, yesterday. And remember, this gets into the nodal shift into Gemini. And what are we talking about? We're talking about education, right? That's Gemini, early child education. Parents sue public school district for enabling kids to change gender without parental consent, notice and consent. How about that? Madison schools have adopted policies that violate constitutionally recognized parental rights. I think the rights of parents are, how do I say this? They're sketchy. Once your kid signs a birth certificate, you're kind of signing away their rights in a lot of ways. But you can fight for them and do certain things. A public school district should not and cannot make decisions reserved for parents. So we can see here where the action around the nodes is taking place. And remember, one of the things that I talked about with the nodes would be, especially in Gemini, would be the whole transgender issue, because it is clearly a very Gemini kind of mindset. Flip from one side to the other, one side to the other, right? Male, female, ambiguity, things like that. Madison, Wisconsin, February 19, 2020, parents are suing the Madison Metropolitan School District in Wisconsin for enabling children to socially transition to a member of the opposite sex at school without parental notice or consent. Teachers are directed to deceive parents by using the child's birth name and biological sex whenever parents are involved. That's a very Gemini thing, right? So when they're involved with the parent, it's like, okay, well, we're going to call Johnny Johnny, and we recognize that Johnny's a male. In school, they say, oh, Johnny, do you feel like you want to play with this doll today? Well, that'd be kind of interesting. I don't know. Let me look under the dress, and oh, look, Johnny's got some gender issues. Johnny, have you ever felt maybe that you don't always feel like a boy? Well, I don't know. Maybe sometimes, sometimes I'd like to, play with my sister. See what I'm talking about? Johnny, we're gonna do something different. We're gonna try and play a little game with you. So when you're at school, we're gonna call you Jenny. We're gonna call you Jenny. How do you feel about that? Kid's probably 5 or 6 years. Oh, okay, whatever. That's the Gemini thing. It's happening. The lawsuit claims that the school district is violating parental rights by adopting a policy designed to circumvent parental involvement in a pivotal decision affecting their children's health and future. The policy enables children of any age to socially transition to a different gender identity at school without parental notice or consent, requires all teachers to enable this transition, and then prohibits teachers from communicating with parents about this potentially life-altering choice without the child's consent, the lawsuit adds. So one day you're a parent, and all of a sudden your kid comes home and says, Mommy, I'm a boy, and I want to change my name to Derek. And why? This just happened out of the blue. No, it didn't happen out of the blue. They were grooming your child in public school. You're going to see more of these stories, by the way. And I talked about this. I talked about this in the state of Connecticut. Finally, the girls who are athletes at the state final track meets are suing the state because they're allowing trans boys from high school to compete in their events and dominate everything. They finally had a law. This is going to happen. We're going to see more and more of these things, especially with that true noting. And by the way, don't expect these girls to win their lawsuits. That's the other part of this, but it's starting to come up. Oh, let's see. The school district also directs its teachers and staff to deceive parents. All right, we read that. Rick Essenberg, President and General Counsel of the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, said in a statement, Madison schools have adopted policies that violate constitutionally recognized parental rights. A public school district should not and cannot make decisions reserved for parents. The school district in the state's capital had adopted its guidance and policies to support transgender, non-binary, and gender-expansive students. Gender-expansive students. Wow, it just sounds so liberating. In April 2018, according to the document, all staff will refer to students by their affirmed names and pronouns, Refusal to respect a student's name and pronouns is considered a violation of the school district's non-discrimination policy. The guidelines claim having one's gender identity recognized and validated is important, ensuring confidentiality and privacy. I mean, what has happened to our educational process? All I know what's happened. It's been taken over. School staff shall not disclose any information that may reveal a student's gender identity to others, including parents or guardians and other school staff, unless legally required to do so, unless the student has authorized such disclosure to the government. Wow, that's intense. The parents who remain anonymous say that if their children ever begin to experience gender dysphoria, they would not immediately affirm their children's beliefs about their gender identity and allow them to transition. So they're telling the people how to freaking parent too, to a different gender role, but instead pursue a treatment approach to help them identify, address the underlying cause of dysphoria, and learn to embrace their biology. This is all bullshit. The lawsuit illustrates the school district's policy regarding transgender. Pull your kids out of the fucking school, okay? Pull your kids out of the school. Pull them out. Pull them out. The training walks teachers through a hypothetical scenario in which a student named Jaden, with a Y, of course, informs the teacher that he or she would like to change gender identity at school. It continues after the training participants discuss the scenario. The training video informs teachers that Jaden has the right to use their affirmed name and pronouns in school, even without changes in infinite campus, whatever that is, or family permission. Teachers are also told to find from Jaden if family is supportive of their gender identity. So it's okay for Jaden to be a spy in their home and to report back to the school, the Politburo, just what and how their parents are reacting to their gender identity bait and switch. All right, let's see what we have here. This is crazy. This is crazy. The Madison Metropolitan School District dedicates an official website to its welcoming schools approach, which claims to support the academic and social emotional growth of our students. Get the fucking social and emotional growth out of education. And why don't you just stress the academic? And while you're at it, why don't you just pull Common Core out of there, which is anything but. Our school systems are plagued with like red algae, right? Red bloom algae has taken over the school system in the United States. We are committed to creating an anti-racist, non-discriminatory environment. By the way, I have a client, teaches overseas, teaches in the American schools and teaches in another non-American schools. And even in a foreign country, the American schools are peddling this bullshit to American students living in another part of the world. So they're transporting their ideology all across the planet. This is amazing shit. This is going to be one of the main areas of conflict in the battlefield, which is for the mind and the heart of your children. And I believe you're gonna see parents defect out of the public school system. They're gonna defect. More and more parents are gonna pull their kids out. The ones that feel strongly about these very alarming strategies and tactics to indoctrinate their children and start programming them at a very early age. They'll figure it out and they'll pull their kids out. Of course, it'll be the cheerleaders. Oh, this is great. It's so gender expansive. Oh, isn't this great? Oh, we're on the cutting edge of the future, and it's so new age. We could be anybody. We could be anything. It's wonderful. And there's no judgment. There's no condemnation. Oh, it's wonderful. Wonderful. And then down the line, you're going to find a bunch of fucked up and very confused young people. And guess who they're going to blame? They're going to blame their parents. That day's coming. When those parents have to answer to their kids, it's not going to be very fun. I guarantee you that. All right, let me check in with you guys. About ready to get out of here. Let's see what's happening in Chatlandia. Let's see. The Sovietization of American education. Yep. Upper right-hand corner of the screen is where they slip in the subliminals. Learn this in film school. The only good thing about this is that maybe you can wake enough. Yes, it's the wake-up call. In our school district, the parents fought successfully to remove Common Core. Good. Good. What else do we have here? John Taylor Gatto, the Dean of Real Education. Child abuse is not isolated to sexual abuse. Spot on, Cremies. Spot on. Deliberate dumbing down of America sure is. You guys are so smart. What a smart chat room. I went to film school too, Ani, at Full Sail. What a ripoff. Yeah. Yeah. Joe, I could do some heating right now. What else do we have here? Such a smart chat room. The sun is fire, passion, spirit. People fear not knowing death. Well, it's all about the fear of death, right? And if you're not willing to, if you're not willing to die for something, then what are you living for? You don't have to be on a suicide mission, but sometimes our convictions must be backed up and validated by what we're willing to sacrifice for them. And that, by the way, doesn't always mean physical death. There are people in the marketplace who sacrifice their truth, like Jordan Peterson. I'll give you an example. Jordan Peterson got extremely sick. I know you guys following this at all? Excuse me. Jordan Peterson was essentially abducted by his daughter and taken to Russia so that they could put him into a medically induced coma to get him off of benzos, because Jordan Peterson was going through a severe depression. And I'll tell you why Jordan Peterson is going through a severe depression. Jordan Peterson is a very, very smart guy. He had a breakdown. He had a massive breakdown because he's so mental, he's so Gemini, that his central nervous system and his intellect got fried. And the reason he got fried is because Jordan Peterson, for all the good things that he has brought to the world in a lot of ways, and I think he's brought some good things, at the end of the day, he cannot reconcile himself with certain questions and certain, that's what I'm looking for, certain truths about his work. Like Jordan Peterson will never, ever, ever question Israel. Never in a day. Never. And I saw the moment where, and I'll tell you why, because he knows that if he gets close to that third rail, that he won't have an opportunity to speak. They'll just, shut him down. They will. And look, and I'm going to play devil's advocate there too. There's something to be kind of said for that, because in some ways, if you want to make a living, you want to disseminate truth on some level or wake people up, you've got to be very, very, very smart about how you go about doing it. You just have to be smart about it. And that means any group who theoretically might be offended by what you have to say. Right? You've got to be really smart, and it can be done. But Jordan Peterson hadn't quite figured that out. And there was an event where somebody was talking about Solzhenitsyn and gave him a book, 1,000 Years of Whatever, right? And he talked about, the guy in the audience talked about the Holodomor and the Holocaust, Holodomor Holocaust, and which is what Solzhenitsyn was talking about. And he was confronting Jordan Peterson with a very uncomfortable truth, and was asking Jordan Peterson to comment on it. You can watch the video and you can see Jordan Peterson break down. You can just see him break down. And I think somebody in his position, and I think Jordan Peterson is quite analytical, very analytical, and doesn't miss a lot of things. I think that ultimately he was breaking down because he could not reconcile his status and his need for money. And he talks about that. He was very, very proud about how much money he's made. And he also talks about how it's important to be willing to offend someone. It's a really key cornerstone pillar in the Jordan Peterson ideology. And when he got into that tangle with Kathy, what's her name, from the BBC, that was one of the things that he really brought to her attention and to our attention. But ultimately, even Jordan Peterson couldn't confront the fact that there were certain people and certain groups that he couldn't offend. And so I think he had a really hard time reconciling that. Plus the fact that I think he's, again, he's tough in his own way, but very, very wired in a kind of a very, how do I say this, nervous sort of way. And I think, there's only so much most people can take under the heat of scrutiny and criticism. The 2 minutes of hate. And that's got to accumulate on a person over time and psychically, energetically, and spiritually wear them down. It's this mass consciousness and, this kind of psychic, rule of the mob or mob rule. And I think he probably succumbed to some of that. Anyway, he's trying to kick the benzos. And he was put into, apparently he's having to learn how to walk again and all this other stuff. And I hope he gets well. I hope he gets better. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Jordan Peterson. But he had to leave North America because apparently the doctors here were poisoning him. Is that news to everybody? Not to me. Anyway, good luck, Jordan Peterson. And I hope your quest for your truth and personal enlightenment goes to the next level. Well, I'm pulling for you. I think most people are. Okay, I'm out of here for the day. Let's see what we have. One more scan of chat. Peterson took over Timothy Leary's position, so not exactly speaking from the heart. I wonder if him eating only steak has something to do with how sick he got. We all know you're not allowed to criticize. That's right. Another great show. Thanks, Uncle Glenn. Thank you. Appreciate it. His daughter only eats meat. She looks fine. She looks fine. I just think personal exhaustion, 24/7, not being able to reconcile ultimately his own maxim, which is the maxim of being able and willing to offend another person. Couldn't reconcile that. All right, I'm out of here. If you like the show, I'll have some instructions to subscribe. If you'd like an astrological reading, that is my business. And by the way, I've had some great readings this week, really great readings. One of my favorite readings is something called The Everything. And I did one this week and it was just out of the water. It was great, loved it. And the person got a lot out of it. And it's where I actually connect a number of different systems with the chart. It's kind of like, when Star Trek, where they were playing chess, on all these different levels. That's what the Everything reading is. It's my favorite reading. Anyway, I did one of those this week. So if you'd like an astrological reading, robertphoenix.com, sign up for that. You can sign up to subscribe. There's goodies there. The subscription details will be in the show description. Hit that, subscribe, pass the videos on. If you like this, if you like the information here, pass it along. Let's kind of create a viral vortex. Not just my show, other shows that you feel that you get a lot out of and want to, this is the Underground Railroad of the information highway. And I'm glad you're aboard. Have a great day.